having the blessing of an early challenge is something that I
Yeah.
feel a lot of appreciation for.
Every hardship always breeds great blessings. I always say
Mhm.
you benefit in either getting a warning so that you behave differently and make different choices, or there's a lesson of something that you want to replicate.
I can just share information, make it easy to connect with me, and then offer a couple of options, letting it be easy.
Welcome back. This is the Kelly Roach Show, and I'm so excited to have my friend Susie Moore on the show with me today. Hey, Susie.
Ellie, I love you. I'm so happy to be with you. Thank you for having me right now.
Absolutely. I'm so happy that you're here. Now, Susie is just the strategist behind people that want to leverage PR to
Mhm.
tap into new streams, to get new visibility, to become discovered, to get the logos, to get the authority, and to
Mhm.
really open up a new way beyond just grinding online to grow your
Yeah.
business. So, Susie, why don't you start by talking a little bit about like your story
Mhm.
and kind of how you even arrived at the conclusion that this is a superior method for growth and for visibility and opportunity, and why you decided to commit to this work that you're doing.
Well, like you, Kelly, I have a corporate background, and I think having a corporate background is a tremendous skill. There's so much that we
Yeah.
learn as we're working away day to day with different teams and different companies.
Yeah.
And much as I enjoyed my career in tech, I just always knew it wasn't my life's work.
Yeah,
I
for
was very
sure.
happy for the perks and benefits, but I knew that I always
Yeah.
wanted to work for myself and do
Yeah.
meaningful work, however I deem that. And I started life coaching as a side hustle. Shout out to any side hustlers in
I
the
started as a side hustle when I was in corporate too, Susie. We have so much in
See?
common.
See?
Okay, go ahead.
I can tell. Okay,
Yeah.
so many similarities here. So I was live coaching in the evenings and the weekends, and I loved it. And I started with my own simple referral system, but it was, let's say a trickle, steady, but
Mhm.
not what I wanted it
Yeah.
to be. And of course, I wanted it to be full time. I had this idea in my
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
And I would just, Kelly, I had two thoughts that just felt so true to me, even in those early stages. The first was, if I have this dream in my heart to go big, there has to be a way. Like there has to be a way to
Mhm.
make it happen. I wouldn't have this
Yeah.
seed inside of me unless there was the mechanics of its
Yeah.
fulfillment somehow.
Yeah.
And then secondly, I noticed that even how I'd get clients in the beginning was just sharing my stories, talking about,
Yeah.
the fact that I was divorced in my 20s. I got through it. I've moved around a lot. I lost my father when I was a teenager to addiction. This is how I deal with grief and loss. I would just tell my stories, and then the right people would just kind of find
Mhm.
me. And I'd find this
Mhm.
kind of click with the right person. And
Yeah.
then in my cubicle running, waiting till 5 o'clock, I noticed that through the lens of a new life coach as a side hustler, I'd of course read content like most people, like HuffPost,
Yeah.
Marie Claire, Mind Body Green, Business Insider. And through the lens of a life coach, I noticed that they covered a lot of content that I love to coach on, stuff like
Mhm.
productivity, spirituality, confidence building. And one day I was meant to meet a friend for drinks. I was early, she was late. And I just submitted my first 600 word piece to Mind Body Green. 2 weeks later, I had an author page. It was shared nearly 2,000, no, nearly 4,000 times. And I
That's
was
amazing.
like, this is it. All I'm doing is showing up, sharing something that I would share with a friend,
Yeah.
advice I'd share with a friend, tapping into an audience that I had no idea its size, and then realizing, wow, this is a way I can actually grow my business. There's volume here. And there wasn't
Yeah.
volume, well, at least back then for me with socials, I had no email list, but I was like, wow, there are all these audiences that already exist. I don't have to build them. I can just be generous, show up, be myself, and really take advantage of what already exists.
I love that. Okay, I want to backtrack on a couple things because you just touched on a lot there. So this is amazing. First of all, I love that you're talking about leveraging the power of, I call it OPA, other people's audiences. This is why I think
Yes.
podcast guesting is like one of the most powerful things. And
Mhm.
what you're talking about is even a further leverage form of growth, because you don't have to be like live on camera taking your time. This is
Yeah.
almost like a more passive way of accomplishing the same thing,
Mhm.
and complementing that by tapping into like a whole new world that is beyond the internet bubble, which I think is
Yeah.
very, very powerful and never talked about. So I
Yes.
love that. I
Mhm.
want to go back to where you started with you talked about the power of story. You
Mhm.
talked about how you shared your story. You talked about how you dealt with grief. I
Mhm.
think that a lot of entrepreneurs have been through, a lot of the most successful entrepreneurs have been through really hard things.
Yes.
I think we can agree on that.
Oh, yes.
And I think that a lot of great entrepreneurs also don't realize the magnitude and power of sharing their story,
Mhm.
because those are like our jagged edges, right? Those aren't the things that we're most excited to go out and tell everyone about,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And with this being the age of AI, where information as a currency is actually going to lose value tremendously, because anyone can just plug anything into, uh,
Mhm.
any of these things online, I
Mhm.
feel the currency of story is
Mhm.
just going to explode, which is why I feel like this conversation that we're having today is so timely. So, first of all, I want to go back to what you said about you lost your father at a young age,
Mhm.
due to addiction,
Mhm.
and you shared how you dealt with that and worked through that. And I just want
Mhm.
to take a moment before we go like super deep into the
Yeah.
tactical PR and all of that. And I want to dig into that for a moment, because anytime someone has successfully dealt with grief and worked through something like that, it's worth taking a moment to talk about and share, because it can help and change so many lives that are listening to the show today that are trying to work through those things, and also trying to be visible for their brand at the same time, which sometimes is like the most difficult thing in the world, because you want to curl up and pull a blanket over your head. You don't want to
Mhm.
be on a stage speaking. So, can you
Mhm.
just unpack that a little bit, Susie? Because I feel like you glossed over it really quick, but I think it's a really important part of you, and the why behind your what, and all of that. So I just want to stay there for a quick moment.
Yes, absolutely, Kelly. And I'm really happy that you've asked me about this, especially as, this time of year, starting a new year, people don't want to talk about the hard stuff. And
Yeah,
we also we're awkward around it. We don't want to make anybody
yeah,
uncomfortable, but
yeah,
everyone experiences loss. I mean, some
yeah,
sooner rather than later, but it's
yeah,
inevitable.
yeah,
And so when it comes to sharing my stories, if anyone here has lived with an addict or knows an addict, you know the roller coaster that entails. And surprisingly, it's so many more people than you realize, especially once you
yeah.
start opening up.
Oh yeah,
It's amazing when you start sharing what you've experienced in bigger ways, in small ways. It's tremendously moving how people are so
yeah,
quick to share their stories as well. It's very
yeah.
permission giving. And so when I was growing up, we lived in a series of different domestic violence shelters because of
Mhm.
my dad's behavior, my mom's behavior. We moved around a lot, living on welfare, church donations. There was many blessings in that, actually, being part of the church community as a
Mhm.
kid. But living that way when I was young, it did spark a very big desire in me. Seeing the women around me, how they were surviving in different ways, I could see their
Yeah,
strength. I just knew, and I will always love and respect my parents. I just knew it wasn't going to be my life.
yeah.
Like,
That's
absolutely.
exactly how I felt, and I love my parents so much too. But I had that deep like conviction in me that I was like, this is not going to be my life. Like,
Yes.
and I
Yes.
love them so much. And
Yep.
to your point, it's like
Mhm.
every hardship always breeds great blessings, and there's so much that you
Mhm.
learn from it. And I always say, like, especially with our situations growing up, whatever it is, it's like
Mhm.
you benefit in either getting a warning so that you behave differently and make different choices, or there's a lesson of something that you want to replicate. And like, I love
Yes.
that you said that, because I think so many times people stay stuck in the what happened, instead
Mhm.
of taking that and saying, like, you get to decide that this was something that you're not going to replicate in your life. So I just want to acknowledge that for you. That's so powerful.
Absolutely. And I think, having the blessing of an early challenge is something that I
Yeah.
feel a lot of appreciation for. It
Yeah.
gave me a very stark desire. I had a lot of, even though I didn't have the language, being so young, I just knew that I was going to create something and do my
Yeah.
life differently. And so navigating right the ups and downs of lots of changes, I feel that creating my own steadiness, doing it on my own terms has always been my
Yeah.
priority. And also having a really healthy, happy marriage. I mean,
Yeah.
my standards were actually extremely high. It's like you might think
Yeah.
they'd be low, but I was like, no, I'm
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
happy by myself. I know I'm competent, I'm strong. So
100%.
something has to add to
Yeah.
my life. So I feel as if I've got a really good gauge on what a healthy relationship looks like, on what financial stability looks like,
Yeah.
knowing too that I think probably the two greatest gifts that I received from my early challenges were a lack of judgment towards people because you don't know
Mhm.
someone's story. We're so
Yeah.
quick to judge based on the outside. We don't know
Yes.
what's going on with anybody ever,
Yes.
even people we
Amen.
know well in some situations. And then also having compassion. So compassion for others and also just self-compassion. Because I think that when you've had ups and downs, you are emotional for no reason. Sometimes there are these odd triggers that come up
Yeah.
when you're like, why am I so emotional in this
Yeah.
moment? And so
Yeah.
being compassionate for myself too.
That's so good. So powerful. So you knew you were like, I'm going to have something different, right?
Yes.
And you got
Yes.
into corporate, you were doing your thing, you were in tech, you're like making
Mhm.
it work. You're like, okay, this
Yeah.
is cool, but
Mhm.
there's still something more. You
Yes.
have your friend that's late for the drink one day, you submit this article and
Yes.
you're like, holy shit,
Mhm.
okay, wow. And then what?
Mhm. Well, Kelly, I was scared to leave my job because I've been a breadwinner in my home and I love it
Yeah.
that way. I've
Mhm.
written about this too.
Me
I
too.
was earning
Yeah.
$500,000 at the age of 30. So I was thinking, gosh, I'm going to be hedged, especially with my financial, like what I've
Yep.
lived through.
Yep.
I'm careful.
Yep.
And so as I started creating content, seeing the amounts of people that I could reach, right? Frankly, just sharing my stories, typing on
Yep.
my laptop. It's an introvert's dream, by the way, this work. I realized, wow, I can just share information, make it easy to connect with me, and then offer a couple of options, and then
Yeah.
allow this income, like allow it, like letting it be easy. I don't have
Yeah.
to, because I thought I don't want to go to these events and like have business cards and like tell
Yeah.
people why they need a life coach. It just wasn't my style.
Yeah.
But I thought if I
Yeah.
just keep sharing, if even on uncomfortable topics, if I'm willing to just keep showing up, being myself,
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
the right people too, there's so much screening that just happens in that process because someone who thinks that you're a bimbo or ungrateful or doesn't like your style, they won't get in touch with you. Already
Yeah.
so much is
Yeah.
pre-paved. But when you're sharing who you are and someone's like, I really was moved by your story or I want to do that, then you just it's really like a magnet to the right people.
Yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
kept going ever since. My very first article was live January 2014, so nearly 10 years ago.
I
So
love that.
still going.
Yeah. And then so when did you or talk about the transition from when you were like, okay, life coaching is cool, but I really want to specialize more in helping people to leverage these things. Like talk to
Yes.
me a little bit about that transition. And then let's give everybody that's listening kind of a clear understanding of what your world looks like today and how you help people. And then we can give them some tips and strategies to get started.
Yes. Well, I noticed as I was coaching more and more, a lot of people started asking me how I was getting all these features because, often you pay quite a lot or you pay a publicist who, by the way, gives you no guarantees,
Yeah.
who often doesn't even have connections. If
Yep.
anyone even wants to hire a publicist, I have a full checklist that I would recommend sharing.
Yep.
But it just happened quite organically. Everyone was saying, "Oh, how do you?" And people were asking from a business context, how do I get my work out there? And some people were
Hmm.
just saying, "Look, I've got a fertility journey that's taken me 10 years, and I just want to share it with other women."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so much of it was just this heart-driven, I want to be of service. And it,
Yeah.
it was so moving. And I'm like, well, I really believe, Kelly, if you've got something that you want to say, it's because someone needs to hear it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not to
Yeah.
hold back. Yeah, of course, use your socials, use your YouTube, use your podcast, do all the things, but don't neglect the fact that
Yeah.
traditional media exists and they want to hear from
Yeah.
regular people. just like us, and they like hearing from us directly too. This I
For
know.
sure. For
And
sure.
so I would then just start sharing my strategies and my scripts and how to identify the right audiences and the right media and how to make sure that it was actually working in a way where you'd also get paid if that was your intention, so people could work with you, because there are a few moving parts to this.
Hmm.
And then I was repeating myself a lot, and I was like, I'm just gonna write like a mini book on this. And then I was like, oh, there are always the same questions that come up, and then there are some nuances. So then I created like a live training once, and of course it's now evolved into more, but it was really just answering a need that I didn't even realize. I mean, it kind of just happened on its own. And
Yeah.
now, Kelly, seriously, I get more pleasure from other people's wins than mine. I mean, I still love my
Yeah.
own very much. I freak out still, but seeing other people's wins and seeing how they get to impact. So,
Yeah.
one of my people today is on actually the Tamron Hall show right now.
Oh, that's so
So
awesome.
it's and that
Yeah.
and she's doing amazing work. So
Yeah.
so this
That's
is
so
available.
good.
I just feel like
Yeah.
to making democratizing something that's been reserved for the people who can afford it
Yeah,
almost is
no,
also
for
part of my
sure.
work.
Well,
Yeah.
and also I just feel like the model's broken. Like,
Mhm.
it's to your point earlier, like if you want to hire a publicist, it's a massive monthly retainer with zero
Mhm.
guarantees.
Mhm.
And then like, oh, I have an
Mhm.
interesting story. We
I've
actually
heard them all, Kelly, but I still want no, but that's what I mean. I cut the eye rolls, the disappointments, the burnt,
oh,
six
I
figures
can't
invested,
even.
nothing. I
Yeah,
know. I've
it's
heard it
so
all.
bad. It's so,
Mhm.
so bad. I could tell so many stories. But anyway,
Mhm.
I love that you're disrupting that model because I don't really feel like there is a lot of clarity. Let's put it that way. There isn't a lot of clarity
Yeah.
for business owners on how to create repeatable success with getting these media
Yes.
placements.
Yeah.
And I feel like, to your point, it's really been reserved for people that get in with a publicist. But the problem
Mhm.
is that, like, that industry is broken now. And
Mhm.
so you can
Mhm.
hire a publicist, you can spend 100 grand, and it
Mhm.
doesn't mean that you're going to have anything at the end of it. So,
Mhm.
how did you create the model for the way that you teach this now
Mhm.
in your courses and in your trainings where people can basically like do this on their own or have their team do it for them? Probably for a
Yeah.
lot of my audience, this would be something where they would come to get your training and then they would have their team, do the pitches or the marketing or whatever.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about how that works?
Yes. So I think the first step is acknowledging that the media is accessible. Most people think that,
Yeah,
oh, it's
I
some
love that.
elite group,
Yeah.
locked away somewhere and good luck. And look, the media industry, it's often a lot of young people eager to hear
Yeah.
stories. They care too about fresh voices. And
Yeah.
my Business Insider editor told me just last month that they actually have an allotment of just new voices,
I
people who
love
haven't even been
that.
heard anywhere else yet. And Kelly, people often think you need to have formal qualifications or you need 10 years in business or you need something fancy. You don't. In fact,
Mhm.
my best friend is the editor in chief of CNET, and he told me that one of his favorite stories that he published earlier this year was from a single mom of three. He said, of course, there's always going to be room for the true expert, like a CPA or a
Sure.
CFA in
Yeah.
finance.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
there's going to be a perspective, et cetera, from someone who's got the training and professional background. But he's like, I want to hear from this single mom how she got out of $30,000
Yeah.
debt, she got three kids, and has now
Yeah.
saved $47,000. How we want to hear from you, right? And we
Yeah.
don't need, oh, I now live in St. Bart's on my yacht. It's like, I was an engineer.
Yeah.
I'm in my first year in business. I'm averaging 3K a month. This is what I'd do differently if I started over. Like, or these are
Yeah.
the biggest lesson I learned. Small thing, one other story even recently was this woman in New York is renting out her backyard, making money as a side hustle so people can go there with their dogs. Like,
Mhm.
you don't need, I think that first of all, you have to realize that you already have more stories than you probably give yourself credit for. You're more
Yeah.
interesting than you
Yeah.
realize. Even
I think
basic.
a lot of people struggle with feeling like they have a story angle that would be able to get media attention. So I love you said the first point is believing that the media is accessible, right? And
Yes.
and I would assume that another hurdle is
Mhm.
believing that you have a story that people want to hear that's worth telling is part of what you train people on how to position like the hook of their story and all of that so that they can get people to
Oh,
respond.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And often too, when someone's even like ideating, they go for one story that feels most natural or safe, but they don't even realize that who they are, what led them to their current like day to day. It's so interesting. Like, are you an expat? Are you someone who had to go
Yeah,
through
for
something
sure. For
unconventional?
sure.
It's so interesting. But to us, it's just our life. So it's
Yeah.
obvious, you know, but
Yeah.
most people have so many stories within them. And yeah, we can lean into the ones that drive directly to our products and services. Absolutely. Like do that. But also even just your personal, the personal side of you attracts more people than you might think.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
if
and I think that there's a whole nother thing there because I think like from a business perspective, like we're always so focused on like, generating leads that are in our niche that are, going to be ready to buy. But I think sometimes we miss the value of like broad base exposure because lots
Mhm.
of people come to you for lots of different reasons.
Yes.
Right. So, like,
Mhm.
that's what you're saying is like,
Mhm.
yes, there's like some things that you do that may be like industry or niche specific, but there's a lot of value in gaining that exposure. Like, I think I know you've had pieces that have had like millions of, exposures right online. Not all
Mhm.
of those people are going to be your perfect person to buy PR, but someone might book you for a speaking engagement. Someone might want you to come in to do a training for their team. Like there's so
Exactly.
many different ways that people can resonate with you that I think we miss sometimes.
Oh my
Right.
gosh, absolutely. And so even earlier this year, I gave a talk for International Women's Day, International Women's Month in
Yeah.
March
Yeah.
for an investment bank in New York. And it's because the events manager saw one of my pieces. I can't remember if it was in
See, that's what
Katie
I'm saying.
Couric.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's exactly what I mean. Yeah.
all I was talking about was habits of authentically confident people.
I
And that's
love.
around my book content, etc. And I was just sharing, some qualities that are consistent in the people that I observe.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
was it. And it was like, do you want to come and give a talk? So it's you never know until you put yourself in the way of opportunity. Like
Yeah.
you have to participate.
Yeah. For
We can't
sure.
just go, okay, why is no one discovering me? Like,
Yeah.
where's my big break? It's like like luck.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, let's be lucky. Right? Let's intentionally
Yes, yes,
like
yes, yes. Oh
conscious
my God,
luck.
I love. Okay. What are some of the other things like for people that are listening here today that are like, okay, let me try and figure out if this is a good avenue for me? Like
Mhm.
how would you help someone determine if this is an avenue that they should be putting into their 2024 strategy for their business?
Well, Kelly, I love what you said, OPAs, love that. Uh, I think with any industry, there's naturally a lot of crossover, right? Because if someone
Hmm.
follows you, it's very possible they follow me, they follow our other peers. But when I tap into media audiences, it's just different. I just
I
find
just love
that
that so
the
much. Yeah.
the audience profile, it's just different. Often there's just a lot of beginners too. So the beginner market is so big. And if you also serve people who are brand new to plant-based eating, brand new to maybe want to consider having an online business, brand new to understanding, I don't know, some type of parenting or fitness content, there really is this fresh supply of eyeballs that
Yeah, I
and
love
take
that.
going back to
Yeah.
basics. I mean, it's a very big pool. For me, it feels very blue ocean. And you,
Hmm.
Kelly, truly, even if you for the rest of your life pitch yourself to all the media that would want you, you couldn't put a dent in
100%. Yeah, no, I
it's
totally agree with that. I
so
totally agree.
it's so
How many
limitless.
hours a week do you feel like someone needs in order to do this and get placements consistently?
I would say 2 hours a week. And this is if you're serious, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
once you have a pitch structure down, and a pitch is
Mhm.
essentially three parts, once you
Yeah.
have that down, it's a slight tweak each time.
Yeah.
And then assuming you get a yes, so 1 hour pitching and then 1 hour content creation.
Yeah. Which
So,
the
and
1 hour pitching your team can do for you.
absolutely.
And then even like my team, if they're submitting for a media piece, like they'll just say, can you send me an audio message answering like these questions? And then they'll take it and they'll like, massage it and get it ready and all of that. So it's not a
Exactly.
heavy lift for people to integrate this into their business at all whatsoever. And I know people ask me all the time, they're like, how do I get the logos? How do I, blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah. And people ask me all the time about paid. And I'm like, no, I'm like, do not
No,
pay. Like,
do
do
not
not
pay.
pay to get yourself placed. You can get real media. Now, I've always had like people on my team that have done this for me. And
Hmm.
I think this is just from a ROI perspective,
Hmm.
someone to be able to start getting these features with basically having a team member that pitches them for an hour a week versus spending, time either or money on a full-time PR person or on a retainer
Hmm.
with a crazy firm where it's like a no-brainer, right?
Hmm. Oh my.
So
Hmm.
you talked about, you know, the story angles, and you talked
Hmm.
about the time that it takes to get started. And you talked about if basically someone wants to break into new audiences and they want to get visibility other places, like this is a great fit.
Hmm.
What else do you think people should know or consider to like kind of break in and get started with something like this?
I love to highlight the fact that, sometimes we can see someone, maybe it's one of our peers, maybe we deem them a competitor on some level. Just say you see somebody who's out there and they're getting the wins and they're getting the mic and you just see them, they just seem to be just so visible. It's easy to assume or assign something special to that person,
Yeah.
thinking, oh, well, they've just got this special thing, or maybe they're just really vibrant, or maybe they're just super talented. It's not that. They're just
Yeah.
doing this. They're just taking
Yeah.
the leaps. That's it. And frankly, Kelly, all else being equal, right? What comes up when you're Googled, right? Probably your website, your social handles, great. Same for everybody else, right? What if it's amazing brands that are showing your name again and again and again on your
Yeah.
topic? Not only are your potential audience finding you, but other media is also finding you. It
Yeah.
compounds
For
like money in the
sure.
stock market. It just gets easier and easier. And if someone's
Yeah.
making a decision on anything, like a dermatologist, a life coach, a real estate broker, and all else is, similar investment level, maybe similar kind of, you like two or three options, we're going to lean towards the one that's in the media, the one who's in Martha Stewart, if we love Martha, the one who's in Oprah, the one who's in,
Mhm.
Inc. Because that
Mhm.
trusted look, and I joke, look, I don't make the rules, right? But
Yeah.
being in the media, you're elevated,
Yeah.
right? It
No,
does give you that. It gives you, so why not let it be easier, right?
it
Why
is
not give
so
yourself,
true. It
yeah.
is so true. And I want to go back to what you said just a second ago, Susie, because I think this is a very important lesson for everyone listening.
Hmm.
People see people that are everywhere and they think, oh, that person is like having their moment. That person is so special. That person is getting picked for everything. No, that person is pitching and pitching and pitching, and they have someone that is putting them. And I learned this because a couple of years ago, I was like, all right, guys, I'm like, it's time for us to go get some awards for the business. We need to get some authority
Mm-hmm.
for the business. And we did. We got Inc. 5,000 2 years in a row. We got all these awards.
Yeah.
You have to submit applications and go through a process for every single one of these things. There
Yep.
is no one that is just awarded an award. There's no one that is just placed magically. There's no one that is just right. Like it's deciding like, oh, this
Hmm.
is something that I'd like for my brand. I'd like my brand to be featured in the media. I'd like my brand to be featured in these articles. I'd like new audiences to be exposed.
Hmm.
Okay, then what
Hmm.
is your action that is going to facilitate that? And I think it's important to talk about that because I think
Yep.
a lot of people think, oh, this
Hmm.
person's just getting picked for everything. And it's like,
Uh-uh.
no,
No, they're just
they're not
willing to
just
be
getting picked for
uncomfortable.
everything.
They're putting themselves in the arena again and
Yeah,
again. And
they're
let me tell
putting
you,
themselves in the arena. Yeah,
everyone's getting rejected too. You just don't see that because the rejections never make
100%.
it to the light, right? We only see the, oh, look where I am. Oh, look who's interviewing me. Oh, look at my amazing new link.
Yes,
That's all we see. We don't see the other stuff. And so
a
look, I get
thousand
rejected
percent.
all the time. It means nothing. I joke
Exactly.
that I'm rejection proof because I
Oh,
really
yeah.
am. Like
No,
my
I'm the same
bounce.
way. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because I just know that, oh, okay, not it off. I just take it as not the right time or not the right fit, right? Like as in
oh
today.
yeah. No,
That's it.
100%. Yeah, we have things that my team has pitched for me 8,
Yeah,
9 times that I've been rejected for. I'm like, I don't
there you go.
care. I'm
I don't
like,
care.
keep going.
Yeah,
I don't care.
exactly.
I literally don't care.
Exactly.
I'm like, keep going. We will keep getting no's until one day it's a yes. I don't care. And that's the thing is like, I think it's really important for people to hear us having this conversation
Mhm.
that we are consistently rejected, that
Yes.
rejection is literally a part of the pathway to success. And
Yes.
that, like you said, I love what
Mhm.
you said. You're like, it means nothing. It doesn't
Nothing.
mean anything.
Yeah.
But also, it's not that people are magically picked for things. And I just have to say that again because I think
Mhm.
media is one element of that, but it's the same thing for speaking. It's the same
Mm-hmm.
thing for the rooms that you want to get into. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
making the decision that that's important to you, and then it's
Mm-hmm.
aligning your actions with the outcome that you want, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you can't do
Exactly.
everything all at once. So it's just
Mhm.
deciding. So,
Yeah.
Susie, I know you have an amazing webinar that you break down like all the things and give like a pathway. Let's talk a little bit about like what you're going to teach in the webinar, and then we'll give them a link if they want to come and learn more about this.
Yes, if you want to learn more about how the media works, demystified, behind the scenes, the real stuff, I share how I got started, what you need and don't need in order to make it successful. We have a live class called Overnight Rockstar, and it's all about skyrocketing your reputation in the way that elevates everything about
Yeah.
you, your brand, your business, and learning how to attract new customers, clients, whatever that looks like to you by becoming your own publicist. And Kelly, it's a skill that pays off forevermore. I tell you, I mean,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
learn this once, you master this once, and it's always available. Like, where
Yeah.
to next? What else can I test? What audience can I tap into? Especially if you've got any type of promotion, a book, a new podcast, some new type of product or service. Yes, rely on your audiences and rely on your peers and do all the things, throw everything at your success, but don't forget that there is this huge untapped, uncrowded resource available. and
Yes,
and the media too, they want to hear from you. It's a value exchange. It's not like,
for
thank you for
sure.
choosing me. It's like, you're also welcome. I'm bringing a great story, and the person who really wins is the audience member who gets to
Yeah.
hear about you. So
Yeah, for sure.
mhm,
So on the webinar, are you going to
mhm.
talk a little bit about like how they find these opportunities, and then when they
Yes.
get the opportunities, what they can do to turn them
Yes.
into something?
Yes. So how
Yeah.
it goes from how a media feature comes to be from initially just an idea that you have in your mind, so sharing a story,
Okay.
through to what happens once you win, right? So once
Love it.
you've got your
Love it.
link, you've got your clip, you've got your media feature ready, like what where to from here. So
That's
the most
amazing.
yeah, so understanding that it is a process, right? It's a system. Anyone can do it. And understanding too, I break down coming up with your ideas. What's the difference between an idea and a pitch?
Yeah.
What's a great framework for telling a story? I use the
Yeah.
same framework every single time. I don't mess with
Yeah.
it, and I haven't in
So
years
good.
because it works, and I break that down too.
That's awesome. And that's something that people can use like across the board for
Anywhere.
every area of their business, because I mean,
Exactly.
again, guys, I know you recorded a whole episode on my perspective about AI. I just
Mhm.
think that it's really important to understand that like your humanness, your
Mhm.
story, your jagged
Mhm.
edges, like the
Mhm.
unique context that comes with that is going to be so crucial for your brand to stand out as we go forward, because
Yes.
the information piece of things, it's accessible in a click of a button, right?
Mhm.
Information isn't the thing anymore, but the context and the rapport and the relationship and the humanness and the consciousness,
Mhm.
like that's going to become so much more valuable, right?
Oh,
Because a
yeah.
machine isn't going to replace that. So I think that this is going to become even more important. And listen,
Mhm.
there's a lot going on with ads. There's a
Mhm.
lot going on with changes in the maturity of the online market. It's like having an added stream of income or having an added insurance policy for how you're
Mhm.
generating leads and creating visibility for your business, right? So we're going to
Mhm.
put the link to the webinar in the show notes, but you can go to getrockstarpr.com, and I have my own link /Kelly. So getrockstarpr.com /Kelly. And Susie, this is amazing stuff. And I think it's really important. And
Mhm.
it's crazy because like it's so good that you're doing this, because I just don't think that people really know that there's an alternative out there, that they could just do this in their business. Like it's
I
crazy.
know.
They
I
think that you
know.
have to have either a PR team or someone
Mhm.
on retainer, and you're giving
Yeah.
this like alternative path where everyday entrepreneurs can just make this a regular part of their growth strategy, which I love.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that amazing? Like, talk about
Yeah.
letting it be easy. I mean,
Yeah.
there are other ways. They're available. Why not take
Yes.
advantage? I mean, I believe
So
that
good.
we're meant to succeed in our like
For
the
sure.
dreams that we have. They're not random. We're meant
I
to.
believe that. I wholeheartedly believe that so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then with everything like conspiring for you, why not tap into the audiences that are just there? They just don't know about you yet.
for
Right.
sure.
Kelly, I'm sure we'll agree on this that, being visible, being able to be found is our number one job. Nothing can
100%.
happen. Nothing can happen
Nothing
without
can
that.
happen.
So
Exactly. I
yeah.
love that so much. All right, awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys go to getrockstarpr.com/Kelly. Make sure if you're not already following Susie, go find Susie. Susie, what's your Instagram handle?
It's at Susie.Moore.
At Susie.Moore, and your show.
Let It Be Easy with Susie Moore.
Let it be easy. She's got the sign behind her. Come on, we all need more of that in our lives. All right, awesome. Susie, thank you so much for coming on the show today. So
I
happy
love
to
you,
have
Kelly.
you.
Mwah.
All right. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Get yourself registered for the webinar and we will see you back here soon. Thank you so much for listening to the Kelly Roach Show. If you enjoyed this episode, do me 2 solids. Subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode and leave us a review so other people can find the life-changing content that we share here. We're on our way to #1 and we need your help getting there. Thanks so much for being a part of the community and for tuning into the show.